Good morning and welcome to the Veterans Forum. Today this show is coming to you from the Manchester Medical Center in the Veterans Administration here in Manchester, New Hampshire. Today is the 17th of February, 2017. We've been doing this show now for a little over 10 years. We started in Massachusetts and now we've moved up here into New Hampshire. The program, entitled The Veterans Forum, is being produced in cooperation with the Library of Congress's Veterans History Project, which they started in the year 2000. The basic idea is to give every guy and gal who served anywhere in any of the wars or conflicts, as sometimes they're called, an opportunity to share their experiences and, more important, how it may have impacted upon their life once they left the service. You don't have to be Audie Murphy and have all kinds of wonderful, great things. The simple fact is this: each one of us had a job to do, and we did it. Try to make an example, if you will. Imagine our history is one great big puzzle, and each one of us is a piece in that puzzle, and we're trying to fill in all the spots so that the people coming after us will be able to have a good, clear understanding of what it was. We are recording history that was made by the people who are recording it, okay? Now, everybody would like to say, I didn't do such and such, I didn't do this and didn't do that. But the important part is this: if you do not tell your story, nobody else will. And we've lost all that history. One of the guys that I interviewed at a POW meeting many years ago said, "You know, Steve, this is perhaps one of the greatest legacies I can leave my family." Think about it. When we're gone, the kids, our grandkids and their kids perhaps, can say, "Hey, I talked to Grandpa today. I've had it happen." It's a tearjerker, pure and simple, but it's wonderful. Now today we have another young lady here who's going to give us some of the history that she did way back when. But before I do that, I've been flapping this thing around. This is a new system, telephone link, if you will. The number 211. Dial it on any telephone throughout the state of New Hampshire, and it'll put you in touch with a cadre of people and associations that can help you with almost any and every problem you have. The only requirement is you have to have at least 6 months honorable service and an honorable discharge. After that, you or if your friends think you need some help. Again, that number, 211. You word it, use it if you must. Okay? Now, I'm going to ask Millie to introduce herself, and then we'll get this show on the road. If you would, please, tell us your name, spell your last name for the service, for the record, where you now live, your Army service dates and time, and we'll get started out with that, okay?
Well, I'm Emilia K DeVore, and I'm very fussy about spelling my first name. It's Emilia, which is pronounced Emilia, and it comes from the Polish version of Emilia. I live here in Manchester. I've attended schools in Manchester, graduated from Central High School.
We'll get there. We just want to know where you live now and your service date, just to set the stage.
I went into the service in August 1944, and I was discharged in August 1946.
Thank you. You did a good job. Now, we know who you are now, but what I'd like to do, remember that old game, This Is Your Life? Remember that show we talked about before? I'd like to go back at things like this. For example, where and when were you born? And what was your family life growing up before you went in the service? Any brothers and sisters and that sort of stuff? What was your history? How were you in school? Were you a good student, an average student, or whatever? And then we'll take it from there, okay? It's your show.
I was born May 30th, 1923. And it was a home birth because the woman that washed me when I was born told me about it a number of times after when I grew up. She says, I gave you your first bath. So from then, I attended school. I went to Franklin School in Manchester, which is now where the center is.
Now, is that a kindergarten through first grade or high school?
First
what
grade
grades?
through 8th grade.
Okay.
And then from there, I went to Manchester Central High School. 4 years, I participated in the chorus group, in the civics group, and gym classes. When I graduated there, I could not afford to go to college, so I found work in the city.
Doing what?
I went to various places. First place was where they did needles that did knitting for sweaters.
Making knitting needles?
No, they were the needles that they actually put on a machine where the sweaters were knitted.
Oh.
And from there I went to...
Did you stab your fingertips?
Right.
Many times?
Right.
Okay.
And then I went to another company that made sweaters, Pandora's. I worked at Pandora's in their departments, a couple of different departments. And then from there I moved to another company that worked on cloth. Before the cloth is dyed, after it's done, they go through it and pick out any knots or loose threads and things like that. And it didn't pay enough, so then I decided I better go look for something better. So I worked in this company that made meters for the government. The meters were used in airplanes or wherever, and it really was a government
a defense
project.
contract type of stuff.
Right.
Okay.
And from there, I met this girl who belonged to the WACs and explained how the women worked in the Army, but the WACs was an auxiliary of the Army. And so when they changed to regular Army, the WACs could retire or continue as regular Army instead of auxiliary. And that got me interested. And due to the fact that I was getting to be 21 years old and tied to home very closely, I thought I'd like to go into the service.
That's the old family way, though.
Right.
You had to obey back then.
Right. And we were a very small family. I had one brother. I had two brothers. One was very old, much older than I, and the other one was 5 years older than I was. So
Are they alive today, or have they passed?
no, they both have passed away. In fact, my brother, that's 5 years older, he worked for the technical school where he became a mechanic, but he was the manager. He was a professor of that department here in the city. And my oldest brother had a tire shop. So the kind of business people wanting education everywhere. And the brother that's older than I, Stanley, where he worked for Cadillac Garage, they used to send him off to school for a week to learn more about automotive
Maybe
things.
certified in different pieces of the
Right,
work.
and that gave him the professorship in his school, technical school.
Good.
So I was quite happy. We like to be educated, and of course, we couldn't afford college, so we wait till we're at a spot where we can go to college or get some kind of education. So being a small family, we were kind of close.
Kind of close means you fought every day, brother and sister.
Right. We'd argue with each other, or
Yeah,
we'd
discuss.
discuss with
Yeah.
each other. And so when I got to be 21 years old, I decided, I guess it's time to leave home,
You can break the bond.
take myself in my hands and go. So I joined the service.
What
And-
prompted that? Just to get away, a little patriotic feeling to it?
Our people are kind of strict, and they want you close to home and working. Where you work, you gave your money to your parents. You didn't keep your pay.
I know.
They gave you an
They
allotment.
gave you an allowance.
Right.
Kickback.
Right. And so it was a time of, if I stayed out too late, I got reprimanded. And I thought, gee, at 21 years old, I vote, and I work,
Yeah, that-
and then I'm kind of told to stay home.
Well,
So I thought it was time to get away. So
Okay.
I joined the service. And fortunately, the recruiting station was right on the main street, Elm Street, on my way home. So we lived directly in the middle of the city where the courthouse is now, in a federal building. That was where we lived, right in that particular area.
wow.
So we were close to everything, shopping, whatever. So I joined the service, and I don't think my family was very happy at first, but they knew that they had to let me go. So
Okay.
I
So
did.
let's develop that a little bit. Where and when did you report? You enlisted, so, but how did you get in, and what was the first couple of days like when you went from civilian to GI, if you will? And where
Oh.
did you go and how did you get there?
Well, the recruiting station was on Elm Street, so they gave us a date where they would take us to Grenier Field for testing, examinations. I don't know, they didn't give us any shots that day, but we had a thorough examination.
Okay.
And then they brought us back to the recruiting station and told us that they would let us know when we would be leaving Manchester. So what they were doing is they were getting like a group of New England people together.
No, from all the states around, yeah.
Right,
Okay.
because we had some people from Stewartstown, up north. We had a couple of people from there, and I became acquainted with them. I know the last name was Smith. I can't remember the first names. But we left Manchester to go to Boston by train, and from there we met up with another group that were Massachusetts people, Connecticut people, and probably Rhode Island people. And that train took us the long way around. We had overnight, I think it took us 5 days to get to Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia.
Wow.
Well, when we went along, everyone tried to look out the windows
Yeah,
to
it
see.
was all painted black or something?
No, to see where we were at.
Oh.
I remember going west, probably about Detroit or in that particular area,
To go
before
to
we
Georgia?
headed south to Georgia. And I couldn't understand the long way. You know, you take a shortcut, you go straight down.
Now, how were you traveling? Everybody had their own private berth and the Pullman
Well,
air conditioned?
yeah, we had berths, I think 3 or 4 nights that we slept, and they fed us, you know.
How was the chow there?
It wasn't bad. That was Pullman chow.
Well, okay.
It was good. The meals were decent. I can't complain about the
Okay.
meals.
And what happened when you got to Oglethorpe?
Well, they put us in this, I call it theater, big movie house, and called us out by name and then designated what barracks we were to go to. So you became acquainted with the people in your particular barracks. They had a mess hall that we had to go to in another area, but the thing is that they were strict with every individual. I mean, we had our get-up time, we had to be out there in formation, we had our exercises, they marched us around. We had a cadre that she was a sergeant, but she was tough. And when
Like Hollywood tough, like beat you with a
Right,
walking
and-
stick or something?
But she was good and she was fair. And the thing is that when we got through lunch, we'd start to hang around before the next session of, they had movies they showed us. They showed us airplane that belonged to us and
Okay,
airplanes.
aircraft recognition. Silhouettes?
Yeah,
you
so
know.
that we'd know
You
the
didn't
difference
shoot at the good
between-
one, that's the bad one.
Right. So during the break, before the next session of classes, she'd had us marching up and down in formation,
Mm-hmm.
and
How good were you?
we were good. Our
Did
platoon
you
was
stay in
good.
step and hip, hip,
Yep,
hip,
yep.
hip?
And she'd call out, and we'd have to sing, and whether you liked it or not, you had to sing.
Now, how about your activities, the standard KP? How often did you get KP duty?
Well,
Or was that automatic?
In Fort Oglethorpe, we didn't. That
Oh.
they had other people doing that, but they served decent meals. Of course, it was meals I wasn't used to, and they'd watch your tray when you were leaving to see how much you left on, how much you didn't want to eat.
The big sign, take all you want, but eat all you take.
Right, so you kind of pull your tray back when you're
Okay.
going through the line because somebody plops something into it.
Now, did you ever have any trouble getting gravy on your ice cream and that kind of stuff with playing games with your
Right,
food?
Right, but it was a lot of class sessions that they were teaching you how to act. You had to carry your, what do I want to call it now?
Knapsack?
No.
Backpack?
Backpack, and the
Gas mask?
gas mask.
Oh, my
and that
goodness.
you lugged around wherever you went. So there would be a 5-mile walk or a 10-mile walk, and
Walk?
yes, we had to march. Yeah, with the
There's a
backpack
difference
and a
between
gas
marching
mask.
and walking. Walking,
Yeah.
you can take it.
Especially with the gas mask, that was kind of
Well, how'd you like going through the gas chamber?
I didn't mind it because they tell you exactly what to do. You
Mm-hmm.
take your deep breath, let it out, and then hurry up out.
Yeah.
And some of them just couldn't make it, but if you listen to the instructions,
Okay.
you have no problem. And so when we got through with that, that was one of the last things. And then they gave us some exams, which told them whether you could go to officers training or go on.
Yeah,
They
they're
told you
listed.
where you were going to go.
Yeah.
Okay. And when they said I was going to New England, never mind the officers training. That that was taking me too far away from home.
Oh,
So they sent me to, in fact, by train, they sent a group of us to Camp Miles Standish in Taunton, Mass. And that, again, we were assigned barracks and told what to do.
Now, at any time were you ever instructed in the use of arms, guns and pistols and that kind of stuff, or did they not do that?
They showed it in as a form of a movie, instructions, but they never gave us a gun or
Okay.
anything to handle. But they did show it to say, this is what it's for and how to hold it, or whatever you do with guns.
Yeah,
which-
pointed at somebody, not yourself.
Right.
Always remember that.
Right.
Now, how about the obstacle course? Did you ever have anything like that?
Yes, they had the obstacle course that we went through and climbed up over the rope and down the other side. There were things that we had to crawl through under. It was almost like the men do, but probably on a little easier level than what the men would have to be doing. But we did crawl under stuff and we did climb over things, and
Okay.
it was just normal Army activity.
Well, after your training now, did you have a chance to select what you wanted to do, or they just tell you, you're going to be a bounty bumpin', that's where you're going to go?
They go through your records because when you fill out your form, you tell them what you had in school.
Okay.
And of course, I had typing, so.
Oh,
and then,
automatic.
And then I volunteered at the hospital before I went in service. It was something that a group of us did, waiting on patients, getting water to them and things like that.
Oh, like
So,
stripers?
it was-
Pink stripers?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, with a background like that, they started me at the hospital, and I worked there for quite a few months, and then they needed office help. So when they saw my record of typing, they put me in the office, and that was kind of interesting because it was when they were sending the soldiers across to wherever they were going to be stationed, Italy or England or wherever.
Okay, point of
So
embarkation.
that's right. So that was enjoyable. And then when the war ended, they reverted to bring those soldiers back and sent home to wherever they lived or whatever the area was that
Okay, is
had
that where you stayed most of your time?
in the office. Yeah, that was well, I worked on what they called morning reports. We picked up the whole company that came over from overseas, and they finished their morning reports. They did no more morning reports. They weren't subject to any of the people. So we picked that up, and as each group was sent to the nearest camp where they lived, whether for discharge or for further further service, we held them till that point and then dropped them off so that the other company would pick them up.
Well, how about the other one at the beginning as they were coming in to go overseas? Did you process them the same way, or the same groups?
No, it was just by group, not by individual areas. I mean, if there were one company, the whole company was gone on our morning report. So unless somebody was sick and had to go to the hospital or something, then we picked them up. But otherwise, we didn't. They just, the whole company went together.
Now, how much time did you have off, if you will, like weekend passes and so forth? And where did you go, and how did you enjoy that type of time?
Well, you had 3 days a month as a pass, and then you had a week every 6 months for a whole week pass. But you could get a weekend pass 3 days once a month, and you could do anything you wanted to do in that time. You could stay on the camp,
on the base,
or go home if you're close enough, which I was close enough from Taunton to Manchester that I could go for a weekend pass. We took a trip up, this other woman and I took a trip up to Canada for the fall season to see the leaves on a 3-day pass, which was a little bit further than the pass allows, but
just to race it.
Right, but we made it. So we did a lot of things, and I was busy the whole time. I mean, there was nothing that you didn't have to do. I mean, you did your work during the day, and your evenings were free. And after you got, let's see, the privates had to do KP. I did that. And then first class private still had to do that. When I became a corporal, then about once every 2 or 3 months, you had to sit in a captain's office for the night and watch people coming and going, signing in and out. So that was something different. But
now, how did you qualify to get promoted from private PFC then to corporal? What training did you have to do, or how did you do it?
Well, that all depended on the officers that were in that particular building.
Oh.
And if you kind of liked them, you know, or you did things for them, and they saw what you were doing, how you were doing your work, if you paid attention to your work, or if you goofed off, they got you a stripe.
Oh.
So I became first class private. And then there was a sergeant that was in charge of my area, and he said, I do a lot of the work, and he does some running around.
Was the sergeant, he was taking care of
the department.
Oh, no women sergeants?
No, there were women sergeants, but not in our area.
Okay, trying to get the differentiation. Things change after a while, you know.
They do, yeah. They had some women that were sergeants, and very good. And so when he left, I became corporal because I was in charge of that department. So you have to work hard to get any stripes. And, you know, it all depends how much you do, how you do your work.
Your attitude.
And really your attitude. And you don't goof off. There's no time to goof off. I don't want to sit and twiddle my thumbs. As long as I have work, I'm going to work. And if I finish mine, I'm going to go someplace else to find some work in that office, whether it's filing or something, but I'm going to move to use up my time.
You're a hustler.
And you have to. And so when they closed Camp Standish, it was kind of sad because it was a closed community. We had our barracks were in the back, and we had our dining hall, and then the street was out there. So we kind of closed us in so that you knew everybody in all the 3 barracks. Even though you weren't friendly with those women, you got to know them because
Just close
they were in your
proximity,
area. And they used to have dances at the PX 3 nights a week. They brought in girls from the different areas for the dances. But we were right there. We could go to dance every.
Did you?
Yes.
Have a good
We never
time?
missed a dance.
Good.
3 times a week. And so you get to know people around the area. So when they closed the camp and we went to Camp Kilmer, that was a different area completely.
Where's
we were
Camp Kilmer?
We were in New Jersey,
Oh,
in Bound Brook area, I think it was. But it was a completely different area. It was like if you picked up everything and moved to the next town where you knew nobody, didn't know anybody, just yourself. That was what Kilmer was.
Ooh.
It was, you knew just about half a dozen people in your barracks. And there's no closeness. We worked.
And you went by yourself? Did they go as a whole group?
No, the day they closed Camp Miles Standish, they put us on a bus with a lunch bag. You could eat your lunch on the way. We didn't know how long it was going to take us to get
So
there.
bite small.
Right. But they gave us lunch on the way. And so when we got there, again, we were put in an area, and they read out whatever barrack we were supposed to go to. So again, we were assigned. We couldn't pick. I mean, you just said, this is your
Okay.
barracks, and the sergeant in that barracks would tell you where your bunk was. So you had a place to sleep and keep your stuff. But everything was routine. I mean, you live at home, you have closets, you put your clothes anywhere you want. Over there, they had to hang a certain way.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, your shirts, your skirts, your jackets, your coats. And then you had a foot locker. And again, everything had to be in a certain place in that foot locker. There wasn't a place that you could just throw stuff in and say, hey, I close it
Now,
and
to
that's it.
that point, did you have to stencil your clothing with your name or serial number or
We
something?
had to put everything on. When we got to Fort Oglethorpe, they sent us through this building, and you'd say, my name is so-and-so. I wear size 12 clothes. I wear size 7 shoe.
Mhm.
They'd give it to you.
Throw
And
it
then-
over the counter.
Right.
You have a bag to carry, or did you put them on at the top?
No, they gave you a bag, and your name was printed on that bag, and then you had to go put your name on every item that
Yeah.
you wore, every shirt, every sock, every coat, jacket, whatever. So when you went to the laundry, it came back to you.
Yeah.
So
And you
that
got
was-
your own stuff, not
It
somebody
was your own
else.
stuff. It wasn't mixed up with anybody else's. So that was kind of good there, because you knew what you had, how much you had, and you took care of it.
Yeah.
You laundered it, you ironed it,
Amen.
kept it in
Tried to
good
keep
condition.
it clean as you could, as long as you could.
Right, right. But
But after a while, though, that routine came because that's what they were trying to do, is to give you an idea that there's no I in team. Remember, they ever tell that to you? That's what we used to get. You weren't an individual. You're
No.
part of a team.
Right.
And the success of the team was as good as the weakest person in that group. So everybody had to really, as they say, I'll get your back, you take care of mine. And it worked.
Right.
It made sense.
and it did. And the group that you finally became adjusted to were there for you.
Yeah.
I mean, if I had KP, they'd say, Kowalewski, I'll wake you, I'll make sure you get there on time.
Good.
So somebody always was
Yeah.
there to help
the
you.
buddy system. Yeah.
Right, and it worked with everybody. And if you were in the dining hall, there were certain things you had to do, they'd help you. There'd be 2 or 3
Oh,
of
yeah.
us working for KP. Well, if you do this here, I'll help you with this table. You do this table, and I'll help you with that table. So everything worked out.
Yeah.
It was, to me, it was unusual that a stranger would come to you and help you, just so that you'd get it done
Yeah.
and get it done
That's
right.
right. It's for the
Right.
common good.
Yes, it was. And like Camp Kilmer, they put me in a recruiting office. Well, I couldn't wait to get out of there.
Why? You didn't want to be recruited again?
No. I felt so bad because of the veterans, the soldiers that came from overseas were either going to be transferred to another company or another camp or discharged, either one. But when they came back, they would talk them into recruiting for another term, another 3 years or 4 years. And the come on was that they'd get 30 days at home before they had to go back to a camp. So a lot of them, 30 days at home, wow, boy, that's good.
Yeah.
So they'd
But-
sign up. And I felt so bad. I said, you spent all that time overseas. Now you come home where you can be discharged. And because of the 30 days, you're going to take
You
another 3 years.
signed away 3 more years of your life.
Right. A lot of them did.
Right.
A lot of them did for the 30 days. But that's life. You make up your own mind what you want to do, and you do it.
Yeah, that's it. Now, talking about your time, did you make some real good friends? Have you ever kept in touch with some of the gals, or did that
Yes.
slowly die off?
Yes, I did. And I met a girl from Texas, Pauline Smith. And for some reason, she and I got along. And I had her come visit with me on a 3-day pass to my home. And we corresponded back and forth. And then she married this fellow that we had been chummed with at camp. And so I wrote to her, and my husband and I decided we wanted to take a trip. So we had a truck camper. So we drove to Dallas to visit her.
Wonderful.
I was thrilled because that was after Kennedy was killed there, and I wanted to see the monument they made. So she took me all around Dallas, showing me where Kennedy had been shot, where his monument was, and I really enjoyed it. I thought that was terrific. But I met another woman in Camp Kilmer that was from Salem, Mass, Molly Phillips, and she and I corresponded. And the reason we got friendly was she's one of these that she'd come over to my barracks. She was in another barracks. She'd come over to my barracks and say, "You want to work at the PX today?" "No, Molly, I don't want to work at the PX." "Yes, we'll make some extra money." So she dragged me over to the PX, and we'd have a job at the ice cream counter or wherever.
Oh, you get extra pay for that?
Right. That was
Wow.
working in the PX. I thought they had civilians working there, but she'd always find a job. Or she'd say, "Let's go to New York. We want to go to Rockefeller Center. I'll stand in line for the tickets. Then we'll go see Rockettes at the Rockefeller Center." So we got to know each other very well.
Good.
So then when she got married, she moved to Las Vegas. And I feel terrible because I lost track of her. We wrote, I think, probably the last 5 years that I lost track of her. I didn't get an email from her, or a card from her.
Okay.
And so I felt bad. So I thought about going on, well, I'm not computer very good at that, so asked my daughter to look up a Phillips in Salem, Mass, and see if I could find out
Backtrack her, yeah.
whatever happened to her.
Ever work out?
I haven't done it yet, but
Oh,
I was
it's-
telling my daughter that, asking her if she would look up at the Phillips in Salem. And I know the girl had 2 brothers or 3 brothers. And we drove down there one time to visit her, but she had been gone out overnight or something. And I did tell her family to let her know that I had been
Okay,
there.
but you never got any answer back?
Well, she called me, but I didn't. I wanted to see her where she lived in her home.
Okay. All right.
So we drove to Salem for that purpose. I had her address.
No.
And then when she got married and moved to Las Vegas, we kept up the correspondence. And I enjoyed that till maybe the last 5 years. I didn't get a card from her, and I lost track of her. But I'm going to see if my girls can go on a
Be
computer
well worth it.
and see
Yeah.
where she is or whatever happened to her. She might be dead, I don't know, but you know,
You'll find out.
my age.
Yeah. 94 is a good age, what the heck. Now, let's go back a few years. After you got out of the service, did you take any advantage of the GI Bill, for example, and get some more
Yes.
training or schooling?
They told me that I could get some schooling if I needed it. So I went to the VA and inquired, and I took a course in hairdressing. And the fact that I had to stop hairdressing because of having children, I kind of lost out on a lot of hairdressing things. So then I saw an ad for IRS people. So
The income tax guys?
yes, so I went down and took the exam, but I didn't quite make it because I wasn't up on all of my typing. So I felt bad about it. But anyway, I thought, well, why can't I take some education in this type of, like a secretarial course?
business
So maybe I
course.
can get back into that IRS. So I did. I went to the Hessel Business School, and I studied their shorthand and typing.
That's here in Manchester.
That was here in Manchester. And I did so well in the bookkeeping part that the people in charge asked me to take the second year course. And I says, well, I don't think I have enough time, because they give you the number of months you were in service
Yeah.
is the education they give
That's
you.
your allotment. Yeah.
Right. So they did talk to the VA and told how good I was doing and how great my marks were. So they did agree to a second year.
Good.
And so I had executive secretarial work, which gave me a little bit better up in the workforce.
One more line to fill in.
Right, right. So I enjoyed that, and for 2 years I went there.
Where did
And,
you work?
They put me first in a automotive office, and I worked there for a few months. It was good. In fact, it was Mack Motors, and I was secretary to the boss. So
Oh, that's the truck
truck
people?
truck people,
Well,
yes.
you got to tell us, because we don't know, see. That's what I'm trying to find out.
Oh, that was Mack Trucks.
Okay.
And I enjoyed that. And then the boss was transferred to Massachusetts. He was a very good seller of Mack Motors. And so they shifted him to Massachusetts office. So I thought, well, I guess it's time for me to move. So I looked through the ads, and I found another job in a hosiery factory, Manchester Hosiery. And I thought, well, I don't know, but it was the head bookkeeper. So I said, well, this is what I've studied, so
Grab
yes,
it.
it's good. So I worked there for 5 years till my husband got transferred to Massachusetts for his job. So we sold our property here, went to Massachusetts for 2 years, and then the company decided they wanted him to close the Manchester plant,
Come back.
and so we had to come back. So I was traveling back and forth looking for houses to buy. So we did buy a house here where we are living now, and it wasn't a house I liked, but we've been there for 56 years, so
You better start liking it, baby.
I guess that's where I'm going to stay. But I get involved in a lot of things. I'm not what you call really a homebody that just takes care of a house and that's it. I like to learn a lot of things. I'm involved in a lot of activities, a lot of fraternal organizations. I traveled with them, for them. I enjoyed that. We went to Poland 4 times. I went there for a month for study into a college there, where if I had been going to college, I would have got credit for a year's work.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So
Foreign study.
right. So I never stopped learning. My husband says, "When are you going to stop?" I don't know, but the more I learn, the more
More
I feel
questions you
better.
have, yeah.
And a neighbor down the street belonged to an extension group, and she says, "Come on, you know, they get together and they learn things and then do things." Oh, all right. So they learn to do lampshades, they learn to do refinishing, they learn to do tatting, they learn to do county cross stitch. So it's part of my life of wanting to know a little bit more of something. So in refinishing, my husband had some kind of plans of, somebody gave him a desk and a library shelves, and he built that for me. So I refinished it. He was out in the backyard putting on whatever finishing I wanted with my hands and let it dry and putting another coat on.
Okay, building
So,
it up.
Building it up. So both of us are builders. My husband likes to build a lot of things, and I do too. But I like to sew, I like to read, I like to knit. I knit hats for the Elliott Hospital.
Or the little beanies for the babies.
Right, right.
We did a lot of them.
Right. So I, with my neighbor, she started it, volunteering at Elliott, talked me into it. Then I came over to VA, started volunteering. Then I went over to CMC, Catholic Medical Center, started volunteering there. And so it was a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, 3 days, 3 mornings a week that I volunteered. And finally I said, I had a knee replacement, and I said, I better give up something. So I gave up CMC. Well, then I had a rib replacement. Better give up Elliott. But I can't give up the VA. I need that 1 week,
Okay.
Monday morning to get out of my house and go among other people and visit.
Right. Talking about other people, did you have any children? And what's their life like been? Are you a
Well,
grandmother yet, if they have?
Yes, I have 2 girls. One girl was born shortly after I was married. She lives in town. She has no children. She and her husband live in town. They were workers all their lives. She's 70 years old, so they're both retired now, she and her husband. And my other daughter, she lives close. She's 58 years old. In fact, she lives down the street from here. And she had 2 children, a boy and a girl. The boy was a preemie, so I took care of him until he went to school. And then when the little girl came along 3 years later, I said to my daughter, I'm too old. I'm over 70
Help.
when I had the first grandchild. So I really can't, you know, in fact, I had help taking care of him. I had my neighbor work 2 days a week, and I worked 3 days a week taking care of him until he went to school.
Did he know who his mother or grandmother was?
Oh, he did. He
yeah.
did. He knew that Bapchi, you know, and they still call me that. And the little girl, though, I just couldn't. I didn't have enough gumption or something.
Well, you got to admit, let's face it, after a while, you know, the elastic stretches just so far.
Right.
And then you put.
Yeah, but I had 2 brothers, one much older than I, who had a tire shop. And then the other brother was about 5 years older than I. And he worked in automotive. He was in a service. He worked in he was in the Air Corps. He worked in a service and on automotive areas. So when he got out of the service, he went into a garage, an automotive.
Mm-hmm.
And he happened to work at Cadillac Garage, who sent him for more schooling.
Okay, he
He'd
certified.
be gone a whole week
Yeah,
learning. And he worked there for quite a while. And then, for some reason, he got involved with the school department. and they sent him to work at the technical school on automotive. So he had a professorship out of it, which
Professorship?
right, because of all the studies he did that Cadillac Garage sent him for, he got to be
Added it all up. Huh?
added it all up.
Good.
And so when he went to the school department, they said, yes, we need a professor. So that's what he was in a
Good.
technical school. So I was kind of proud of that, and I said, gee, he got his education somehow. I'm going to have my education too."
Amen.
So we were quite happy to get some VA help in
Good.
getting us an education.
Amen.
And I appreciate that. They gave me an education, and I could return what they did for me by volunteering in a VA medical center.
And it's well
So,
appreciated too.
To me, it was well worth the time and the money they spent on me to give them back something that I could do free of charge. Didn't cost me anything to come over here, and
But you get something out of it.
yes, I hate to miss. I'm a Monday girl, and if there's a holiday or something on Monday, I try to come in on a Tuesday just so I could put that extra day in. And I love it. I love the people I work with. They're friendly. The people that work the same day as I do, we're comfortable with each other,
Good.
and we talk.
Again, you're taking each other's back.
Right.
Now, let me ask you a silly question, but I think I know the answer. With all that you've seen and done and the service that you've had, do you feel that your service time was a positive or negative effect in your life and how you live it?
I think it was a positive because I got away from home, number one, among strangers. I had to make my own way with these strangers because I was very shy and a home person. And I didn't realize how shy I was till when I came back home. I took my father over to visit my aunt, and she says, I never saw Millie talk so much.
You've arrived.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she said, before she'd hide behind a chair when we visited. And here she is sitting here talking like it was Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, gab, 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 gab.
Right. And I didn't realize that people thought I was that shy.
Okay.
And it seemed to come out of it. And probably the reason for that, again, is when my husband moved to Massachusetts, his company sent him down there. And we lived in an area that it was sort of a closed area. There was a nice couple next door to us, which they kept to themselves. On the other side of the house, we had the house built there. On the other side of us was another duplex, and they kept to themselves. And the only people were across the road who didn't speak English. So my only conversation was to go to the store every day, drive to the store and shop for some groceries so I could talk to people.
Wow.
So there was just, like in our house, my father, my mother had died, so there was my father and my two girls, my older girl and my little baby girl, and my husband. And my husband was gone all day long. So I had no one really.
That's why you keep them so busy right now.
I'm making of time.
Yeah. Oh, don't rush too fast. Now, to that point, would you have any kind, I'll say, the way the country and the world is right now, and some of the kids coming out of high school, would you recommend or suggest that maybe they should look into going to some branch of the service and go to the different schools that are offered to give them a chance to understand what they want to do?
I would definitely tell them to do that because they learn a lot. Being in service is a strict routine. I mean, you have a get-up time, you have a breakfast time, and you have a work time. And then you have your lunch time, and again, a work time. After the end of the day, then you're free unless you have some obligation at night that they tell you have to do. But outside of that, it's strictly routine that you have to do. There's no you can't change it. They tell you to do it this way, and you do it this way.
Okay. You have to be
And-
responsible for what
Right,
you do.
right. And a lot of the kids nowadays don't. I mean,
I know.
I don't know whether it's their parents let them get away with too much, or whether they just don't listen because there is so much activity with cell phones and computers
Oh, yeah.
that they're not paying attention to what their parents
I
tell
know.
them.
You see that they would joke about it, but kids walking down the street, they walk right into the sidewalk. And
That's right. Or they're on a driving with a cell
Yeah.
phone at the. No,
Let's not go there.
no. But I would definitely say that they should go into some kind of service that is strictly routine
Yeah.
and learn that it would help them to.
Because at all kinds of schools, you can get a real good start of almost junior college level stuff.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Well,
I would advise them, to, and before going to college, I think that they should work for a year after high school to realize that they need money to pay for these things. Their
and
parents.
it's up to them to do it.
Right.
You can't hand out.
Right, right.
Okay.
And because my parents couldn't afford to send my brother and I to college, we took it any way we could,
Yep.
which was by government.
And you did a pretty good job.
Well, I hope so.
Okay. 3 words. Thank you, Millie. This has been fun, and I appreciate you helping and serving as you did and what you've said to us, okay? Stay healthy, okay? I'm going to have to end that, folks, but before I do, I'd like to again remind you, 211. If you feel you need help or if your friends think you might need some help, dial that number. You'll be put in touch with a cadre of people that will give you the best help they can. Okay? Again, this is Bob Stevens saying thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and if you're so inclined, how about you doing an interview for it? For you and your family and for the world. Stay healthy. Come and see us.